You're watching Truth versus Hype on the day when the National Herald case finally brought Sonia and Rahul Gandhi to a trial court in Delhi. In the end, it turned out to be, at least at this stage, a formality. Just 5 minutes and bail was granted. But it was marked by the kind of high-voltage politicking that has come to characterize this case, with the Congress fielding its entire top brass to argue that the Gandhis are being victimized, while the BJP saying that this is just an attempt to deflect attention away from the main charges. On Truth versus Hype, as always, we've tried to steer away from the noise surrounding the case and to look at the somewhat technical questions that have been thrown up by it. Allegations that essentially center around the charge that Sonia and Rahul Gandhi, through unfair means, tried to capture the assets of a legacy newspaper. First, a quick primer of the indisputable facts of the case, which pertains to National Herald, a Congress party newspaper created nearly 7 decades ago. By 2008, it becomes bankrupt, running up crores of losses. Starting in the 90s, the Congress, in a series of installments, loans the parent company, Associated Journals, 90 crore rupees to pay its dues. In 2010, a company called Young Indian is set up, the majority shareholders of which are Sonia and Rahul Gandhi, the rest Congress office bearers. Young Indian acquires AJL's 90 crore debt and becomes its 99% owner. In return, Young Indian pays Congress 50 lakh rupees. The Congress wipes out the debt. Given that the same set of leaders are in charge of the Congress, Young Indian and Associated Journals, the Delhi High Court in its order found that the entire enterprise smacked of criminality, centered around the control of crores of real estate assets. This brings us to the central concern. On one hand, the close web of transactions between the Congress, National Herald and Young Indian indicating fraud as the court claims, or as the Congress claims, was it simply a question of internal housekeeping, since all entities are Congress linked.
Remember, the Congress party shareholder of AJL is the same office bearers, yes. Motilal Vora, Oscar Fernandez. Yes. Those shares are instead issued to a more restrictive entity, the Section 25 company.
I'm coming to that Section 25 in a second.
For that, I'm not on 25. For that share to be issued to a corporate entity, it is important that the corporate entity gets the right to recover that loan.
Okay.
For that, a consideration is provided. A consideration is 50 lakhs. It could have been zero. The Congress.
You're saying the Congress could have written off the entire 90 crores?
Because it is from Congress to Congress.
There's a big difference. Is it totally Congress controlled? There's a big difference between largely and totally. AGL was never totally controlled. Let's go back to the principle of the AGL. Congress leader after Congress leader takes pride in pointing out in 1938 Jawaharlal Nehru ji and a few others set up AGL. Was the Congress party of 1938 a family-owned enterprise?
Let's look at what the facts suggest. Before its buyout by Young Indian, Associated Journals had anywhere between 700 and 1,000 shareholders, but most of these were fragmented, smaller holdings. But a bulk of the ownership was held by Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, who between them controlled about 33%. The other major shareholders were Lalit Suri, the businessman's family, who held about 20%, and a company that was registered to the address of the actor Amitabh Bachchan, who had about 5%. Now, most of these are Congress sympathizers and friends, leading the party to say that this was in fact the Congress taking control of an asset it already had.
But once Associated Journals is taken over by Young Indian, the percentage of the Gandhi's family stake in AJL increases to 76%, more than double. Now this, in the eyes of the Congress, is proof of securing its future, but in the eyes of the party's rivals is the very opposite.
So they are securing their future, or are they securing the future of the company? Has every shareholder who was there been part of it? Has this been, was this property, which is the various properties of AJL across the country, taken away from lands which were meant for SC students, which were meant for making libraries, now are becoming other issues, some of them which have gone ahead and made malls?
Moreover, the manner in which the takeover was done, which has also raised questions. Crucially, the general body meeting of AJL held in January 2011, when it decided to hand over ownership to Young Indian.
What happened is that over the years they had the living people, according to my calculation, 1,092, but they have admitted to 761.
Yes. That's what Kapil Sibal has been saying.
How many people attended the general body meeting? Just 7.
As long as the quorum is met, and the quorum is 3% or 7% depending upon the company, but in this case it would have been 3%, and the quorum was met, so there is no problem. Now, if majority of these shareholders did not get any notice and they were devoid of the opportunity to attend the meeting, then these shareholders can move to the appellate authority of the court or the company law board and saying that there has been a fraud played upon them.
We gave notice for the meeting. Number 3.
To all shareholders?
Each and every shareholder.
There is proof of this?
Of course there is proof in the company.
Has they been able to produce evidence that they've sent notices to everyone?
Not at all.
Not yet.
No registered post, nothing.
But what of the Congress's argument that Associated Journals may now be majority owned by the Gandhis, but they can't profit from it? At the heart of this argument is that Young Indian, which owns Associated Journals, is a Section 25 company, which means its assets cannot be touched. But the reality, as we found, is slightly more nuanced. According to company law, Section 25 companies cannot give salaries or dividends to its shareholders or promoters. That money can only be spent on its objectives.
Congress is now controlling Young Indian. It is going from Congress to Congress. The difference is that for last 70 years, the Congress could have done what they liked with AJL. Now a 25 restriction is put in.
But experts say there are a number of ways to receive monetary benefits, especially if the objectives are loosely defined. In the case of Young Indian, the objectives are promoting secularism and democracy.
Rather than being specific, which allows any company, why Section 25, to take advantage of it. And it's usually when a company is incorporated, the persons incorporating prefer to have the objects as wide as possible, because they don't want to keep going back every time for permissions.
The law is restrictive only to the company. It does not restrict me from selling the shares at a profit to anybody. Okay, so if I have invested 10 rupees per share and I can sell that share to 100 rupees, 1000 rupees, 1 lakh rupee or 0 paisa to anybody. So I have a potential to earn money from that. I was reading the article by Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi in Economic Times today. He said that this provision is there only in Section 8, that is 2013 Companies Act. It was not there in 1956 Act. I respectfully beg to differ from him, because earlier Section 25 subsection 7 said that government can always withdraw the benefit of Section 25, and there was a penalty of 5,000 rupees per day for the default. So there was always a provision to convert.
We're talking about the possible ways in which somebody could in the future derive benefit, but that's not the offence. The offence of misappropriation is that in the allegation at least must be that somebody has misappropriated the money. Where is the misappropriation? Where is cheating? Where is criminal breach of trust?
So could the Congress have done it in any other way, setting off fewer red flags? One question that repeatedly came up and which the Congress was unable to reply convincingly was why it couldn't sell off these assets and pay back its debts, thus taking Associated Journals back on track.
Clearly, given their location and size, even the sale of one asset of AJL could have cleared its books. In its most recent filings, AJL bizarrely shows its fixed assets as only worth 1.7 crores. The figure is clearly higher, but how high?
No, you have
Dr.
to,
Swamy says the figure he's been citing is based on a guesstimate. Your estimate,
Ma-
and B, did you arrive at it in a scientific, did you commission some sort of an assessment?
No, I didn't arrive at it.
Why not?
Because I have a real estate agents. I asked them what is the thing, and then I did I can multiply, add and subtract.
And what's the number that you're going with?
I went with 2,000 crores.
2,000 crores.
Yeah, and I saw in Economic Times assessment is 1,300 crores or something.
We asked a realty firm to give us an estimate based on size of asset and its current market value.
So the property in Panchkula would be roughly about 5,500 rupees a square foot, and the property in Gomti Nagar in Lucknow would be about 4,400 rupees a square foot.
According to Prop Equity, the Delhi property is about 60 crores, Mumbai 200 crores, Panchkula 40 crores, coming to an estimated value minus some other properties of about 300 crores.
Associated Journals also own this large plot in the heart of Bhopal, built on an acre, now housing a call center and a mall. Property dealers estimate that land here could sell for up to 16,000 a square foot, which makes this a very high value asset.
Since 2010, when Associated Journals is handed over to Young Indian, there's also the first trickle of profits reflecting in AJL's balance sheets. About 7 crores of profit a year. Almost all of it is rental from Herald House in Delhi. Together, there's enough to have paid off the dues without having to borrow from the Congress or undertake a complex restructuring of ownership. The question asked is, why not sell a portion of its many properties and wipe it out?
More than 99 or 95% can't be sold. It's not so simple. Tomorrow, if we had sold it, the first person to complain will be Dr. Swami. You are selling off largesse and pocketing the money. But why can't be sold? 99% are leasehold properties. That's the short answer, which Dr. Swami knows and the whole world knows.
99% is leasehold.
95, maybe 99. Bulk is leasehold property.
But in its own documents, the Bandra property is freehold. In fact, roughly 70% of AJL's properties are described as freehold.
Now, it's not at all uncommon for ailing newspapers to monetize their properties to gain some capital. The Statesman in Delhi did so by getting into a partnership with the Ansuls, a real estate firm, to revive their old newspaper. The Associated Journals and its charter is allowed to do the same.
It's just that going by what's on record, the prospects of revival of the newspaper seem somewhat distant, puncturing the Congress's good faith argument that, look, why doubt our motive? We did this simply with the long-term goal of reviving the newspaper.
The newspaper has to be revived now. We have to make it a commercial. We are going to do it. How is it illegal? How is it a criminal charge?
The permission to build the Mumbai plot, originally allotted for newspaper, was sought by Motilal Vora for commercial purposes. Permission given under a friendly Congress government. The same story behind this plot in Chandigarh, a plot allotted under the previous Congress government for a government office. The Bhopal property is fully occupied by a mall and other commercial offices. So could the Congress have done this differently, in a way that would have raised less questions?
See, existing structure gave complete control. Neither any political party was obstructing the progress of National Herald, neither the courts were obstructing, nor the shareholders were obstructing. So Congress was fully and firmly in the saddle in National Herald. I really do not know why they went for this, why they did this, which has brought such a bad name to them. The other issue is this: if it was a question of money, as Congress has said that it is a newspaper of Congress, they could have continued to support it. They could have asked for donations from people who are well-wishers of the National Herald. They could have given donation, or partly liquidate the property and continue. You need not have 20 properties all over the country without publishing a newspaper. Publish one edition in New Delhi and continue.
It's not just the court which has found the Congress's web of transactions entirely above scrutiny. In January last year, Associated Journals received a notice from the Income Tax Department saying that the transaction was in contravention of law.
I think the IT department should have better things to do than to send this kind of notice. It is just that Dr. Swami is specialized in badgering departments, ED in some cases, IT in the other, and under pressure in the color of sovereign authority, they get these notices issued.
As it turns out, that income tax notice was sent in January of 2014 when the UPA was very much in power. There's also a potential probe into the puzzling source of funds that Young Indian used to pay the Congress 50 lakhs. Since its inception, Young Indian's balance sheets show no financial activity of any kind.
The 50 lakh came from an unsecured loan of 1 crore that the company got from a Calcutta-based firm called Dotex Merchandise, and this is described as an intercorporate loan on its books.
Dotex is part of the RPG Sanjeev Goenka group of companies. But what does it do, and why would it lend 1 crore rupees to a company like Young Indian?
The office of Dotex Merchandise Private Limited in a South Kolkata building, quite a posh area at that. Sir, Dotex Merchandise Private Limited, कोई है यहाँ पे?
नहीं मैडम, यहाँ तो कोई नहीं है, हम जानता नहीं है.
तो आप कौन हैं?
हम इधर का केयरटेकर हैं.
और ये गेस्ट हाउस है?
हाँ, यस, गेस्ट हाउस.
In a statement, the RPG group says Dotex was an investment company acquired nearly 8 years ago, holding shares of the group companies. But they weren't able to answer why such a loan was extended. They said it was before the group was demerged.
1 crore loan.
Subramaniam Swamy, however, claims to have evidence of a new twist.
Well, there's a problem with that. Dotex describes this as a donation to Congress party in its accounts. It has not come out so far, I'm telling you for the first time.
Then essentially Young Indian is paying to the Congress its own money.
This is illegal. You claim this is donation and then it turns out to be a loan. That is, Young Indian claims it's a loan.
And you've got the documents that show this.
Otherwise, will I talk to you?
RPG denies this, saying there's no question of any donation and that the loan was recently repaid by Young Indian with interest. What makes matters murkier, though, is a confessional statement by an alleged Hawala dealer, Uday Mahawar, who told tax officials in Kolkata in May 2014 that he was the original owner of Dotex, which was acquired by RPG using unaccounted money. The RPG group claims they have no knowledge of such a history.
This is not the subject matter of any complaint till now. But secondly, please investigate this. It's official money received by check. And if that money is bad, you have to prosecute that Mahakar or somebody else who has done it, and we will face the details.
Coming up, the National Herald controversy raises questions over political party funding. Where does the money come from and how can it be spent?